relocate due to a bunch of issues happening in my area. And I was fortunate and blessed enough to find a place to stay semi-permanently very quickly, and I'm very, very grateful to everyone who made that happen and to everyone who has been showing their thoughts and prayers and support. It has meant an absolute lot, a great deal to me, and so I really, really appreciate that, and I really appreciate everyone who has supported the channel and everything. We bring you live Q&As, ask me anything about historical studies related content every weekend, Friday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, followed by our Saturday 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, second Q&A, where you can ask me anything about history, social studies, things that you are interested in, and the like. And we are also here on Sundays for our live stream lecture, 4 p.m. And I believe tomorrow we will be lecturing about the history of the British Civil War and Oliver Cromwell and his regime. And I think there's one other topic. We're going to try to do 2 topics tomorrow, and we're really looking forward to that. So welcome to the Friendly Neighborhood History Channel, where we talk about history. And we are just over a legion, a little over 6 subscribers. We've been doing this less than a year, and to get all of that support in this time has been amazing. So your support matters a great deal and has made the Friendly Neighborhood History Channel one of the fastest growing channels, hopefully, on this, and we're really enjoying that. We all have other spheres. We have our social media outlets, as well as we are on X and Instagram and Facebook. We are also I've been growing a Patreon, and I've been doing blogging on Substack, and that has been a lot of fun. I've really, really enjoyed it. So welcome. Good to see you all. I will be answering any questions you have. Ask me anything about history, social studies, past and present, geopolitics, social sciences, and the humanities. It's what we do here every Friday night and Saturday evening. And start your weekend off and keep it going. Start your weekend off the right way and keep it going, having some fun with us on Sundays, on Saturdays as well. And then Sundays, join us for the live stream lecture, where I will be talking about all sorts of different types of important and interesting history that hopefully you guys find interesting as well. And if you like learning about history, consider liking and subscribing to the Patreon, joining us on Substack, and all of that great stuff as well. This is the Friendly Neighborhood History Channel, where we bring you friendly and interesting history content. Joey the Roach is asking, great to see you, Joey. How are you doing? I'm holding in there. I've been upended. My entire life has been upended in just the last few days. I've been really struggling, and we've been going through a huge transition phase, and we are hopefully going to be better off and everything. But I found a place to stay, and I'm so grateful to have a place to stay, and I'm so grateful for everybody who has been showing their support and love to the channel, the Friendly Neighborhood History Channel, and everything. We just hit a legion of subscribers. If you like learning about history and social studies, you're in the right place. This is our AMA, where you can ask me anything about history from all over the world. We have people joining us from India, so great to see you. So thank you, Joey, for asking. I'm doing okay. We've got our new studio, this den that I'll be broadcasting from. I got to get new equipment and everything, but I'm really looking forward to that process. Rodolfo, always great to see you. Show some love to my wonderful moderator, Rodolfo. Hopefully we also will have Simon the Bunny joining us. I watch movies, and we talk about movies here on the channel a lot. Frustrated, especially history movies and social studies and the things like that. Trevor, good to see you. Hey, Nicholas, always great to have you here. You're a streamer giving random other streamers. Are you good with that? Nothing needed on your end. Do you have donations set up? Wow, that's really nice of you. Sure, Benjamin. I totally believe you. The Nigerian prince thing comes to life. Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us at the Friendly Neighborhood History Channel. If you like learning about social studies and history, then you're in the right place. Consider asking anything you would like about the past, the present, the future, social studies, humanities, social sciences. It's what we do here at the Friendly Neighborhood History Channel. And if you like learning about history, consider liking and subscribing and joining the more than the legion of friendly neighborhood historians who do everything. And you're new, and we're so glad that you're here and everything. And if you have anything you want to ask about history and history-related topics, that's what we're here for, and that's what we do. Rodolfo, my wonderful moderator, is here. He can maybe put our social media handles in the chat. That would be a great help. Yes, Benjamin, I'd be happy to give you some info. Margaret, great to see you. Thank you for joining us. You are joining us in the Friendly Neighborhood History Channel. Oh, that's so nice of you, Benjamin. You're a real Chad for offering that. But anyways, if you guys have anything you'd like to ask, this is what we do for the next hour or so. I will be taking and answering your questions and going over different social studies topics. And I'm in a forced relocation process, the most pleasant in the world, but I have my health and I have a place to stay, and so I am very grateful, and so many people don't have those things, and I'm very sorry for them, and I want to help them out any way I can. So you don't know about the social media channels? Rodolfo, are you on the Patreon? And sorry if the internet is a little laggy and everything. I don't have my internet set up yet. I'm doing this based off of my LTE. So, do you know anything about the first Vikings who arrived in North America? So, Nicholas, the first Vikings arrived in North America probably in the 11th century. There was a man named Eric the Red, and he was exiled, or at least went on an expedition from his native Denmark and eventually landed in Iceland. And his son Leif Erikson inhabited, or he was, yeah, and his son Leif Erikson went to Greenland and may have settled certain areas in North America and the Canadian region that may have been conquered by native groups there. So we don't know exactly. What is your name? I don't disclose my name, but this is the Friendly Neighborhood History channel. I'm not the Friendly Neighborhood Historian, but you can be if you like and subscribe. BH Queen, good to have you here. Yeah, Captain Elgato, rents are this high. It's that bad. Hey, yourself, crackhead. So Nicholas, Eric the Red, Leif Erikson is the one, his son, who went into Greenland and then may have landed in North America. And there are traces of Viking architecture, of Viking huts and houses, and Viking art and weaponry and tools that they encountered the natives, and probably struggling to survive in the areas and not knowing the native soils and the different crops and things like that, probably died off, as well as with some maybe less than pleasant interactions with the natives. So let me see here. Okay, can you tell me why Genghis Khan didn't invade India? He didn't invade. He tried. He didn't get that. He didn't get that far. They tried to invade India and they were repelled. What's interesting is that the Mughal Empire, hundreds and 1500s, was the Indian name for Mongol, and their founder, Babur, was Mongol descent and related to Genghis Khan, as so many people in that area were. He did get to the Indus River, but the real truth of the matter is that Genghis Khan wasn't extraordinarily successful in, or he was extraordinarily successful, but they could never conquer India, they could never conquer Egypt or the Middle East, and they could never conquer Vietnam. So, yeah, I'm sorry about the Wi-Fi. I really apologize. I'm relocating. I'm trying to set up a new shop. And the reason I'm trying to set up a new shop is, as many of you know, there are fires raging throughout the United States right now, and my house was lost in the process of that. So all the good Wi-Fi is gone, all of my equipment is gone. I am trying to rebuild. I have fortunately found a place to stay, and this is our new studio here that I'm really looking forward to working in. Yeah, so basically, yeah, it's been a really hard, difficult time, and we're trying our best to do what we can, but I wanted to bring as much as I possibly can, as much history, as much friendly neighborhood history as I possibly could to everybody. So if you like learning about history, and then you are in the right place, and if you have a historical topic or comment or question you want to bring up, please be sure to do so. Yes, fortunately we aren't sure we're going to be perfectly okay. Yeah. Hey, chill guy, after everything I've been through, I'm definitely kind of on your side on this one. I understand exactly where you're coming from, and no, it's not fun to go into a live stream and the Wi-Fi isn't working great. I know that's like, it's frustrating and irritating, so I really, really apologize. Hopefully you can all hear me, and I'm really sorry in advance. We've got a studio, we've got a new place, we're gonna have to set up Wi-Fi, we're gonna have to set up new equipment and lighting and all of that stuff that we had. I'm just glad to have made it out alive and to be safe and be able to bring history to you guys. Yeah. Bring up the genocide of Native Americans. Well, the truth of the matter is, I don't consider that to be a genocide, and I've gotten a lot of heat on the channel for that, from that perspective. It's not my most popular perspective. It's a controversial one, and I understand why a lot of people consider what happened to the Native Americans genocide. The vast majority of Native Americans, and I've talked about this on live streams before and videos, I've made full and short-length videos about the history of Thanksgiving and Native Americans feel that and why many advocates for them feel that. The vast majority of Native Americans who died likely through diseases that were usually So thank you, Nicholas. I appreciate your sympathy. I appreciate everybody's sympathy, but I have my health and I have a place to stay, and a lot of people don't have that, and I have all of you to support me and as a way to grow this platform. I didn't see your comment, Jason. Which country invented the first civilization, bro? Oh, now I see it, and I got a good answer for you. The first civilization usually dates back to the ancient Mesopotamians, who were the first ones to organize writing in. Most people say that history begins when you live in cities and can write, and that usually is cited as the Mesopotamians, the Sumerians, in about the 5th millennium BC. So, in the name of Almighty Christ, I stand with you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Why do Americans keep building their homes from paper mache? Because it's cheap. That's why, Dylan. That's why we have these problems. Pickles, I am not your gay neighbor. But I hope he's good. But I hope you think he's goodling. Social science is the study of, it's a study of fields history and history related. So fields that can include psychology, philosophy are involved in social sciences, sociology, politics, geography. It's basically, social studies includes history, political science, and geography. Social sciences include more things like psychology and sociology. And so it's a wider, bigger net, and religion would be part of that too, that captures history as part of it. And yes, Simon, we are live. And my wonderful moderator, Simon the Bunny, is here, and Rodolfo. So if you like learning about history, you're at the right place. You've joined us for our live stream Q&A. Ask me anything about history, social studies, social sciences. Consider liking and subscribing to the channel. And my wonderful moderator, Simon the Bunny, and Rodolfo, show them some love. And hopefully Simon can put our Patreon, where we give even more exclusive content, and my Substack in the chat, and maybe perhaps the social media handles. And Jason isn't exactly the first civilization, but it's one of the first civilizations in Pakistan. I have a gap tooth because I have the gap tooth, and Rodolfo loves the gap and everything, and I'm doing this so that I can make money and get Invisaligns and fix it. So, chill guy, I am not biracial, but I really don't appreciate the slur. That's unacceptable. We are a free speech network, but don't use this as an opportunity to hate on people, to be racist, to be sexist, to be homophobic. We will not give you the time of day. Ace, that might be possibly true, but there would have been a war in Russia that could have lasted into the winter, and the Russians do really well. They did well against Napoleon and the Nazis in war, especially during the winter, so I don't know if the U.S. should have invaded. It's a big what if in history, and I deal with counterfactuals all the time, but I don't know that invading the Soviet Union would have actually worked in the U.S.'s favor. Everyone was too war-weary to do that, so. British orangutan, welcome. Hello, thank you for joining us. I love your name. The girl to your left is pretty. I wish there was a girl on my left that was pretty. So let me see here. How are you with uncarded? I don't know what that is. Can we bring back green paperbacks? Yeah, today is the anniversary of the death of Benjamin Butler, who was the U.S. general who actually ran for president as a greenback. Do you support wonderful moderators, Bunny? Please be sure to follow us on those social media. Is there any information about which was the first one? Nicholas, I think the oldest religion, there might be a religion that predates it that went out of style, but the oldest religion is probably Hinduism, with Judaism being the oldest monotheistic religion. Know ye not that ye are the temple of God, and the Spirit of God dwelleth in you. Thanks, Derek. I'll take that in the spirit. It's granted in. Janet, so good to see you. I apologize again for any Wi-Fi issues or things like that we are having. Obviously, I'm in my new place. I'm getting my new studio adjusted. I don't have Wi-Fi yet. I'm just barely moving in, so it's going to take me a while till I'm actually a little more situated and can actually do this reliably with better internet. But I'm going to do what I can to have it up and running by next week. Thank you so much for subscribing. It really helps. Like and subscribe, and you can be a friendly neighborhood historian. BH Queen just did it. Thank you. So glad to have you here. What about paganism? Well, paganism is a generic catch-all term for a bunch of different religions that practice polytheism and semi-monotheistic or bitheism or tritheism in different cultures and societies. So paganism is a lot of people who celebrate. Yeah, Janet, it's kind of a forced relocation. Some devastation and had to relocate, but we are so glad to have our health, and I'm so glad to have this place where I can continue to broadcast and answer questions about history, social studies, geopolitics, and social science entities. So if you want to learn about that, consider asking a question or liking and subscribing, and you, like Janet, can be one of our friendly neighborhood historians. So, but yeah, I'm just glad that I'm safe and everything is okay. Santeria is a mix of pagan or native religions of Central and Latin America and the Caribbean and Catholicism. So it was a syncretism of Catholic worship with those practices, just like voodoo is a syncretism of Catholic worship with African religion. Maybe you don't care about that, but maybe you care about the history that I'm talking about. So if you care about that, please do. Yeah. Let me see here. Thank you, Janet. I really appreciate that flip. I would, but then I would fall out of this window and it would look like we were in an action movie. Um, Come back to my question. I said, what was your question, Chill Guy? Can you put it back in the chat? I'm happy to answer it. Thank you, BH Queen. I believe in you too. Do you think, in many ways, Roman Catholicism is the worship of the of Latin peoples with the worship of their native practices and religions and their cultures? So Dia de los Muertos is still practiced. It's actually an ancient Mayan holiday and practice, combined with All Saints Day and All Hallows Eve. And I have a video about the history of Halloween. But Roman Catholicism is very successful because, just like the Roman Empire, it adapted the cultures and customs of a local region to its own practices and culture. So the Greek gods all became the Roman gods, and the Romans used the architecture and art of the Etruscans to model their own style and system. And so the truth of the matter is that Roman Catholicism did a similar thing. It was a religious takeover and far more peaceful than the Romans sometimes. And there was a syncretism. It's like they'll acknowledge the African traditions and roots and customs, but they will also push the Africans to acknowledge Christ. So that's a huge thing for Roman Catholicism. It's much more religious. Is there a possibility that a local economy can be independent? Barter is taxable. I think it is possible, but you have to have a localized economy. The economy has become too globalized to relocalize it. So it's possible thousands of years ago as it was in ancient Mesopotamia. I don't think it's really possible now global. Do more Catholic popes persecute and delete more Christians than all Roman emperors combined? It depends on how you think about it. The fact that populations were bigger, yes. So proportionally, the Roman Empire is far more persecutory and far more violent towards Christianity than Roman Catholicism was, at least towards different types of Christianity. The numbers of the Inquisition have been probably exaggerated to some degree, but if you look at population size, the population sizes were bigger in the medieval and early modern period when the Inquisition and things like this were going on. So, but good question, One Cup. Hi. Oh yeah, triglyceride. The incel who did these incels are just something else on the internet. They're just not attractive, and they're using their angst as a way to promote violence and disgusting behavior and rhetoric. I don't know if it's true that the Pope authorized Joey. There were two popes that are part of the story of World War II. Pope Pius XI, who was really thought the Nazis were a big trouble, and he warned about the Nazis, and people ignored him and and he was about to really stand up and try to turn the church against Hitler, which was huge because there were a lot of Catholic Germans in regions like Bavaria and Munich. But interestingly enough, it was he died, and then the second guy, Pope Pius XII, was far more to Nazi demands and ideas, didn't give in like the Lutheran Church did to Nazi ideology fully, and there were many Vatican were pretty sympathetic to Mussolini because of his Italian nationalism and his supposed love of the Catholic Church. And by the way, if you've ever wondered why Vatican City exists and is the smallest country in the world, it's because for centuries the popes had semi-monarchs, dukes, called the Papal States, and in order to, when Italy became a nation, there was this Papal States and the region of the rest of Italy. And what are the Papal States as the land of the Pope and land, and they kept the Papal State. But this tension remained until Mussolini figured it out by creating Vatican City and basically allowing the Italian country to protect Vatican City within the city of Rome. So that's why Vatican City exists, because Mussolini. Yes, Jason, I have a video on this on my Patreon, so if you subscribe there, you can learn a little bit more. But yes, Tamil is the oldest language that we still use, or one of the oldest languages that we still use. Greek is also one of the oldest languages that we still use, from its ancient origins to now. So Sanskrit, things like that, ancient languages that we still use. Or I don't know if we use Sanskrit. I'm blanking. I don't think we do. But when we think of languages still in use, Tamil is one of the oldest, it's interesting. It's older than Hindi. I heard some language. Do you think the U.S. is in danger of becoming a truly fascist state? Rodolfo, nobody knows what fascist means anymore. It's just a catch-all term we use to apply to our political enemies. So I'm not sure exactly if we're in danger of becoming a fascist state, but we could. But who knows exactly what it's going to look like? Not all themselves. was right-wing terrorism. Yep, homophobic. There's also radical Islamic terrorism. We see things in New Orleans, the most recent mass in the United States. So comes from there. So Rodolfo, I don't know that fascism really anyone can really define what fascism is. I've talked about it a lot on the channel. I don't think the U.S. is in danger of becoming a fascist state. I'm sorry, chill guy. I keep looking for your question, but I can't see it. Do I not have all my chats on? I do have all messages on. Simon, can you find chill guy's question and post in the chat? And if I'm behind, it's partially because of a lag, and it's partially because there's so many great questions from so many of you, and I appreciate all your support during this tough time for the channel. It really means a lot to me. Badro, good to see you. Hey, it's been a long time. Here's a question. What is your opinion on Afrocentrism in general? And what is your opinion on what they claim to be real Copts, Jews, Berbers? I think every single civilization and continental people group, racial group, has tried at one point or another to assert that they are the ancient this, they are the ancient that, they're the people who really did this, and it's not true. The Jews are not Africans. There are African Jews, but the Jews were not originally African. They are Semitic peoples from the Middle East. Joey, I do my best. Thank you for calling me that. Yeah, I don't see Nazis endangering the United States. Maybe I don't think that Nazis have any political power. People think all nationalism is not, just not sure. So, guys, if you're enjoying what you're learning and what I'm talking about, consider liking and subscribing and joining the Friendly Neighborhood Historians. We're over at Legion Strong, and I really appreciate having you guys joining us and asking all these questions and showing all the support. When you look at blood types, negative Rh factors are not from monkeys. They don't know where the blood. Interesting. I don't know a lot about blood science and phlebotomy and genetics and anthropology. I know a little bit, so I do my best. And if I don't know something, I'm going to say it. I'm at 2% battery right now, so follow me out to my car. The internet may get a little laggy again, but I'm going to be charging from there because I don't have a charger in here yet. So, yeah, give me 1 second, guys. Hold on 1 second. And show guy, but Jew is not a buzzword because people ask about it all the time on the channel. It's the way you're using it that might be the issue. So I'm going to be on mute for just a second, guys. Hang tight, and we'll be charging, and we'll be in my car in just a second. And we have a beautiful live and video on that, so hold on a second. Different surroundings and everything, but I couldn't be more happy to have this place and everything. Just getting into my car here so that I can is over for Rodolfo, because when we think about the KKK and what the KKK is, it's basically a terrorist organization with hyper-nationalist sentiment and nativist and racist behaviors, and if that's not any different than Nazis, I don't know what is. And nationalism is a huge part of the identity of the KKK, and you could argue they may be the first nationalist terrorist organization. I've been doing some studying and research into the idea that Greeks invented nationalism with their revolution against the Turks in the early 1800s, and that spread all over. Nationalism in itself isn't a bad thing. It created the countries of Germany and Italy. Most modern nation states derive from some sense of nationalism. The United States does not, because it's more based on ideas and political rhetoric coming out of the American Revolution. So America is not a inherently nationalist country, but it has some nationalist but that doesn't mean you can't be a nationalist and be an American, because the KKK obviously proved it. But how extreme is your nationalism? How far does your nationalism go? How difficult is it? All of that stuff. Yeah. So fortunately, the KKK doesn't seem to have a lot of influence. I hope it stays that way for a long time. I mean, there's different iterations of the KKK. The most obvious one that we are most familiar with in our society and culture is the KKK of the 1860s and 70s, where that terrorized Americans. I'm sorry. Interruptions and disturbances. When we understand the Klan, it lost influence in the later part of the hundreds because the growth and the acceptance of African American integration, and it became more and more reasonable and more seemly to be part of the civil rights movement than it did to become part of the Klan during the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and that obviously led to huge cultural shifts and changes that helped America grow in a great and amazing way towards equality. So, yeah. Let me see. Ever happy dude? Well, I'm in a rush because of the internet and everything else, but I'm glad we got that back up and working, and I'm getting a charge. So I appreciate everybody's patience with me during this very difficult time. I said that I wanted to keep the channel going. People have been asking, do you really want to keep doing this with everything you're dealing with? And I'm like, yes, because this gives me a lot of life. It gives me a lot of vigor. And when you have been in an abnormal situation with so many difficulties, the one thing you want is normalcy. The one thing you want is to be able to do things that you've done for a long time. Okay, hopefully you can hear me all right. Hopefully it's not as glitchy anymore. Let me see here. So, yeah, this is the one thing I want to keep doing. I want to bring I want to be in a return to normalcy, like America in the early 1920s. And part of being normal is just doing with you guys, growing the channel, growing the brand. We were on a hot streak. We were getting so much done. I was so proud of everything we were able to accomplish. I had to curb some of that because of all the difficulties I faced earlier in the week, but I'm not going to pull off just because of those things necessarily. So now we're all good. I'm so glad to hear that things are getting better. But ever happy dude, as always, I'm so glad that you're here and you're part of Friendly Neighborhood History Legion. What is your personal opinion on all the historic relics taken, kept by nations, showcased in their own museums? It's a difficult, paradoxical relationship because on the one end, you have these things that are sacred and important to the native peoples of those regions. And on the other end, you have them having historical significance that could help us learn and understand about cultures. I think it's a extremely arrogant and priggish attitude of the Europeans to assume that they are the only ones who can have museums that have these relics in, and they are the ones that need to teach generally about their history, when it's actually the native peoples. So I think there needs to be endowments, there needs to be funds for native and developing countries where they can build museums for their natural histories and for their anthropology, and they can store those relics, and they need to be returned from places like the British Museum, and they can maybe these different museums where they have all this knowledge, like, and the British Museum and okay, hopefully you can all hear me and things are better now. Hopefully I'm not as glitchy as before. Sorry about that. Is it back now? How's it coming in now, guys? Okay, you can hear me? Can you see me? Okay. All right, good. I'm glad to hear that. So, ever happy dude, to answer your question, there needs to be a way for people to have relics and share them too. And they need to be able to be in the possession of the natives who can teach about them from their own perspective. They need to have their own endowments and their own museums, and maybe there can be some post-colonial help from all those Europeans in education and also access and opportunity and resources. Basically, I would ever happy to do that would be my solution to it. There's this cultural exchange, yet there's this opportunity and all of that stuff. So I'm so sorry, everyone, for all of the disruptions. I can't say that right now, and all the issues. I am trying my absolute best to give you as much quality content as possible. I promise you, tomorrow's live stream will not be nearly as bumpy. First of all, I'll be charged, so I don't have to come from my car where there's all sorts of insulation that makes it more difficult and stuff like that. Although plenty of people live stream from their car. I'm more up towards the mountains, so I'm having that kind of trouble too. But so anyways, let me get back to going through it. So ever happy dude had that great question about relics, and I really appreciated that. Thank you, Global, for doing that. Chill guy, we don't use words like that. We use nice words. And if you asked a question and replaced that word with Jew or the people who are Jewish or the Hebrews, you wouldn't have a problem typing it up and posting it and me answering your question. So there, you're kind of sealing your own fate there, unfortunately. Let me see here. Yeah, I understand where you're coming from too, Bears. Yeah, Robert, it's true. It went underground. I mean, there's still KKK members in the United States who are doing their thing and trying to undermine the government and trying to terrorize African Americans and so many other people, but they don't have any political weight or influence anymore. I wouldn't go that far with BLM. The leader of BLM, who raised a lot of money during her time during the George Floyd riots and even before that, had 2 of her 3 homes burned down in Los Angeles because of the fires. So that's kind of interesting. Okay. Okay. I'm trying to get through this. They said down here that the original Klan was good, but the modern Klan was horrible. I don't believe that. They're all horrible. We basically had to relocate because of everything going on. It was a forced relocation, so this is not my usual space. My usual stuff is gone, lost in a fire. And so I'm doing my absolute best to make do with what I have. And I'm so blessed and fortunate to have found a place to stay. And because I've been running around doing so many things, it's really hard for me to get my battery charged and ready to go like usual. And so because of that, I was really low on battery and I'm having glitch issues. And so I had to go to my car, and the Wi-Fi was already, and I don't have Wi-Fi at this new place. I just barely moved into it. And that's where we are. And I went to my car to charge my phone up a little bit, and Wi-Fi has been the connection's been really bad. So, yeah. I love music. I'm so glad you're here and joined us. Thank you for your prayers and support. They mean a lot. Green paperbacks. I don't know if we're going to bring those back anytime. Thank you, Jason. I really appreciate that. Beto, that makes sense. Twism, don't be an instigator. Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Have you heard about the Aryan Revolution? Yes. 1956, the Hungarians revolted against the communist government. They were crushed by the Hungarian dictator. I think his name was... Israel innovates video technology. Israel does a lot of things, and if Palestine had its own state and had its own resources, I'm sure they would have a bunch of inventors too. And if Hamas wasn't in power and the Palestinian Authority wasn't in power, maybe those regions of the world would have a lot more resources and ability to do it. The Middle East is crawling with resources and all sorts of opportunities, but unfortunately they are an untapped potential because of all of the backwards thinking. Has basically been the squeaky grease in Islam has gotten has gotten the oil, and radical Islam is a minority, but it is the one making the most amount of noise, and it has cowed most other Islamic groups into submission, and it continues to breathe out murderous threats against not just the Christians, but the Jews, and basically anyone who is not a full-bred Muslim the way they want it. I'm glad no one takes the Klan seriously anymore, Rodolfo, and that might answer your question about fascism and its spread. Nationalism may spread, patriotism may spread, but it looks like Nazism, the Klan, we can all agree are awful, horrible place in this world, and we can be repudiated. It isn't a competition. Yeah, it isn't a competition. Much cell phone technology invented in Israel. Yes, that's true, and much of the resources come from China. I mean, and Israel is the same land in many ways as Palestine, and they're the same people. These people are cousins. The Semitic peoples are all related to one or another. If they would learn to stop killing each other, and they would learn sort of radicalism on either side, I think particularly, unfortunately, for the Arabs with Islam, it's been more dominant. They could actually learn to get together and use those resources in doing incredible things. Yes, their SIM card was invented there. Microsoft have R&D centers. They probably have around. Yep, Israel does get blamed for everything. I mean, the UN condemned Israel so many different times and condemned the Palestinian Authority and Hamas a fraction of a time when Hamas is literally a terrorist organization that wants to destroy the Jews. It's just totally not fair. Can you repeat your answer? Bad connection. Have you heard? Yes, I have heard about the Hungarian Revolution. 1956, the Soviets crushed it. They wanted the U.S. to help, and they refused to do it because they were worried about, a revolution breaking out, and they were worried about world war, perhaps even nuclear war with the Soviets. So I haven't had either, but I think I've had bamba. I'm not sure. They're supposed to be really good, from what I've heard. The food is amazing. Middle Eastern food, the Mediterranean diet, kosher diet, halal diet, actually the healthiest for you. So believe it or not, life is a competition, but I don't think war is necessarily good. War is maybe the most violent form of competition. And actually we know that war is not good for us because we know its destructive elements because we created sports. And affluent society becoming more industrialized, developed sporting activities such as baseball and football in the late 19th century as there became more and more opportunity for free time, playtime, which never existed before in human history except for the ultra-rich. But as human societies flourished and developed in the late 19th century, particularly in the West, they developed this idea that instead of killing each other with fighting, we should get out our testosterone, especially men, through competition and things like that, rather than violence and warfare that will kill everybody. Let's do it. Let's give out the same emotions and release the same amounts of serotonin and all of that, but through sports. And sports can become violent and has become violent, but the truth of the matter is it's a way to take warfare and violence and mitigate it into a far less violent and far more adaptable form that is entertaining. Yeah, it is pretty amazing. The World War II did bring the USA out of a depression. And there are times when war, I think, is necessary, but I don't think it's always necessary. And it's unfortunate that it can sometimes be used and has been used deliberately for population control. Twism, I don't disagree. I'm not as myopic, I think, necessarily. But anyways, so we actually, for once, are caught up in the chat, and I appreciate everybody bearing with. And yes, it's the bread and circuses thing. So the bread and circuses, by the way, Jen, I'm glad you brought that up because I was about to do a promotional thing. But basically, the bread and circuses was how the Roman Empire, especially as its economy started to weaken and it had issues with barbarians resettling in its land, and its population began to decline, and its patriotism began to decline. I promise it will not. Okay, so now we're finally moving again, thank God. But basically, what I was saying about bread and circuses, it was a way that the Roman Republic and later the Roman Empire, starting with a group of people who were the first populace, the populares, who wanted to please the people, would give out bread and circuses for free. Circuses could include gladiatorial combat, animal shows, animal combat, even boat and naval battles performed in stadiums like the Colosseum that were filled up with water. Romans had amphitheaters long before the Colosseum. It's not the first one, and it's not the first one to work, but basically, the truth of the matter is that the bread and circuses was very popular with the Roman people and as a way that the government could control them, but also do whatever they wanted, even if it was corrupt. But free bread and free circuses, which became more and more demanded because less and less people worked and more people demanded that to be the case. And as the Roman currency devalued, it became harder and harder to afford these things, and eventually helped lead to the collapse of Rome. Because it allowed for political corruption by government people who basically just gave people what they wanted, demagoguery, instead of actually what was good for them. And by giving them more of this bread and circuses, these entertainment and this food, they would continually sate the population. But this population would always be more people demanding more things. Because if you give the mouse a cookie, he's going to want a glass of milk. So that was common with that. Why Lusitania not as popular as Titanic? Because the Lusitania's sinking didn't directly cause World War I, but it was an example of German unrestricted warfare, submarine warfare, which when they resumed this in 1917, that prompted the U.S., along with the Zimmerman telegram, where they promised to give Mexico the U.S. southern portion back from the Mexican-American War if they invaded the United States. And Wilson couldn't stand for it anymore and went to war with huge public demand. But the Lusitania sank a bunch of people, supplies, and even weapons that were being sent from the U.S. to Britain by the German submarines. And it's not as well known because it's not this big giant ship that supposedly was claimed to be unsinkable. And the Titanic was indeed claimed to be sinkable, but it was by a newspaper article, not by the person who designed it. We send our old weapons to Ukraine, just facts. Yep, that's probably true. In the U.S., do you think there is a modern-day equivalent of bread and circuses? I think there's a lot of welfare. I think there's a lot of entertainment that is free. And hopefully that includes free Wi-Fi, because I wouldn't actually mind that right now with my issues. If Starlink could kick in, that would be great. We give billions of dollars to countries that commit war crimes, but no money for student loans. Americans are the lost priority. Just look at the firefighters with no equipment. Yes, there's always questions about funding when firefighters are watching buildings burn down because they actually don't have water and they're getting water from local pools. You know there's problems with the way the government spends its money. So, and my latest Substack is on how to get through these issues. And so if you're interested in that, please check that out. My wonderful moderator, Simon the Bunny, has talked about it in the chat. But the truth of the matter is, I'm going to be making a Substack about the formidable resilience of Jewish people that I've been reading about in Southern California, who are dealing with this really, really hard experience. And it reminds me of many experiences in history where Jewish people have had to deal with that. Yes, Doggy Boy, I really appreciate you saying that, because I try to be as fair-minded as possible, and people have called me a left-wing nutjob and a right-wing bigot a bunch, so I must be doing something right, because my whole job is to present as an objective a perspective as possible, being a historian and being a friendly historian. So Doggy Boy, I take that as a compliment. Socrates was a polarizing figure in Athenian society. In 399 BC, he was accused of impiety and corrupting the youth. That's why they made him drink hemlock, and he died. So it's always, so the government killed Socrates. Why do Greek and, okay then. I don't know if fluoride causes cancer. I need some proof there. Socrates is known for proclaiming his total ignorance. He used to say that the only thing he was aware of was ignorance, the realization of one's ignorance. Yes, he believed that that we needed to strip ourselves of our preconceived notions of reality in order to go deeper into what reality actually was. He doesn't actually explain what that reality actually is, but the idea is that he has this in his mind, and it passes from him to one of his closest disciples, Plato, who uses Socrates as his main character in his epic work, The Republic, where he explains how he thinks government and the human soul should work. So we talk about philosophy here on the channel too, but we are not the Friendly Neighborhood Philosophy channel. Is the fire of Los Angeles worse than the fire of San Francisco? Which fire of San Francisco? I talk about in my Substack this fire of built and out of the alive, and then comes back in a new form. Egg that is basically the Phoenix sets itself on fire but is recreated, and Los Angeles needs to look to the Phoenix and to Chicago in order to get into better shape. So but yeah, Johnny, I'm thinking, when I think of San Francisco and personal devastation, I think of the San Francisco earthquake of, I think, 1906, and that one killed hundreds of people and wrecked the city, and they had to recover just as Chicago recovered from its 1871 fire. The reason it's called the second city is not because it's the second largest city, and it's not Los Angeles now is, behind New York in the United States, but because it destroyed tens of thousands of buildings. So, sometimes as bad as that. So that is what we were dealing with. So anyways, yes, we want 8,000 by Easter. I want 10,000 by Easter. I'm not going to sell for 8,000. We can grow this channel at a great rate. 8,000 by our birthday. By the way, the Friendly Neighborhood Street Channel's birthday is coming up. It is a month away, and if you want to give something, a nice birthday gift, consider subscribing and becoming a friendly historian or a best friend historian on our Patreon, where we have more exclusive content available for our Patreonies and all of that great stuff, and where I'm willing to do a video in your honor, and shout outs such as my wonderful subscribers like Henry Wright, and Balise, and Simon the Bunny, my wonderful moderator, is a subscriber. You can subscribe for free. It gets me out there in the open, but subscribing with some money is a nice little birthday gift for the Friendly Neighborhood History Channel, and it helps us grow our brand and everything. So, Jews didn't build pyramids, but is Matzah story true? What Matzah story? And the Jews did not build the pyramids. The pyramids were built 1,000 years, probably about 800 to 1,000 years before the Jews were in captivity in Egypt. The eating, I believe the history behind Islam eating pork is similar in that it copies, you have a monotheistic God setting dietary restrictions, very similar to kosher. There might be some copycatting or piggybacking off of that, no pun intended, triglyceride. But I'm not sure exactly why halal forbids pork, but I would imagine pork, especially in ancient times when sanitation was really difficult to achieve, pork is extremely dangerous for people to eat, so all of the dietary restrictions of the kosher and halal diets make a lot of sense. I don't know the differences between the two, other than one obviously is Jewish and the other is Islamic. Am I into men? Yes, men like Napoleon, Julius Caesar, and Abraham Lincoln, and only intellectually. The teacher stumped his student. Interesting. The History Boys movie. I'll have to look into that. Thank you, Triglyceride. What is the matzah story? You mean the story of Passover? The unleavened bread, which is what matzah is. Matzah made from matzah meal. Yeah, well, I would say that there was some sort of exodus of, I don't care Twism. I'm just glad that you're here and learning and asking good questions and bringing up important topics. But anyways, triglyceride, the matzah story, the Exodus story, there is some record and evidence to believe that there was a mass exodus of the Hebrew people and obviously they went to Egypt and ended up in Canaan and conquered that land. So as a historian, I'm not going to say how much of it is true, but I'm going to say there is some truth to it. So, okay. I read why pork is forbidden because pork eats its own feces. Yes, the parasites will cause diseases and all of that stuff, and that's why both Jews and Muslims, back in those days, there was no way to clean it, and to this day, pork is one of the toughest meats to cook because it requires that. You can eat steak raw, you can eat fish raw to some extent. You can't eat chicken raw, but you can eat pork is so dangerous if it's raw. So. I remember when President Ford remarked that there had never been any Soviet domination in Eastern Europe. I think that cost him, yes, that and pardoning Nixon cost Gerald Ford the 1976 election because he actually had proven to be a pretty stable leader, and his decision to pardon Nixon was probably actually the best one. And it was a simple gaffe, and him falling down was mocked on Saturday Night Live, and Ford just seemed kind of a little out of touch, and Jimmy Carter was an outsider. Where am I? I am in my car. I don't get into specifics of exactly where I am, but yes, I don't exactly say, but I obviously have talked about recently how I've had to relocate, and that's why I think I'm back. I just barely got to my new place where I'm going to be staying for a while. So, Art, I hope that answers your question. Yes. No, I don't really care about anyone's background or sexuality or preference or things like that. I had a debate. Some people find me very attractive for some strange reason. And I had a debate on the channel a few weeks ago. I've mentioned girlfriends before, and people were debating, well, is he bi? Is he straight? And I was like, I'm talking about history. I mean, I guess the closest would be sapiosexual, but I don't believe in that stuff anyways. So, I mean, for me, being attracted to somebody who is intelligent is just being attracted to somebody who is intelligent. Have you any Muslims friends? Muslims study their holy book very much. My friends say, even in the Bible, it says not to not pork. Well, it says to not eat pork, and in the it depends on where the Bible stops. So if you are a Jew, you still don't eat pork because you're following kosher laws, usually. If you are a Christian, you most likely do not, because Christians, a lot of them, some exceptions, believe that the New Testament dietary laws, the New Testament allows for the eating of meat based on stories from the book of Acts and other places. And the Muslims do study their holy book very much, and they do know the halal restrictions, and they follow it. So, do you believe in Bible prophecies connect with the times we live in? Jocelyn, I believe that every religion has prophecies of different times and things like that. I don't like to line up stars and things like that and read tea leaves necessarily. I'm not a religious expert, and I'm not going to comment religiously. However, I do believe that there's a lot of effort on the part of American evangelicals and usually conservatives to reinterpret the book of Revelation and other texts in the Bible according to understanding it through their frame of mind, which I think is historically insulting because the Bible was written by Jews in the 1st century AD at the very latest, not by Americans in the 21st century. So reinterpreting a swarm of hornets as Apache attack helicopters is just historical ignorance, in my opinion. I am not trying to be rude or disrespectful to evangelical Christians. I understand why people feel that way and their understanding for certain biblical prophecies about the end times, but I'm not going, as a historian, I'm not going to say that those things are necessarily connected. C-Dub, hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us. So good to see you. My sister-in-law doesn't eat meat and milk together. My sister-in-law doesn't eat meat and milk together. Strange. Or Muslims can. Interesting. So the milk and meat don't go together. The dairy laws, again, is she Muslim, Simon, or is she Jewish? Oh, she's Jewish. That's right. Yes. So you don't eat meat and dairy. And Muslims can indeed do that. Who are you to judge me? I eat cat and dog. Okay, stop. This is where trolling just gets out of the works. This is just so inappropriate and rude. So, anyways, I know we are having issues with internet. I hope things are a little bit better, and I'm really, really sorry. It's not obviously my desire to you, and I'm not ignorant of it. I just appreciate hanging on and trying their best to work with me all of these issues and do their best to learn about history and ask good questions. I appreciate all the support and the love I've been shown. It's been a difficult time, and we are adjusting and moving forward and doing everything we possibly can. So consider liking and subscribing, joining the Friendly Neighborhood History channel, and our birthday is coming up a month from now. Tomorrow I will be talking about, in my live stream lecture at 4 p.m., Oliver Cromwell, and I believe something else. What was the other topic, Simon? Do you remember what it was? But Oliver Cromwell and the English Civil War. And then next weekend I will have my live stream Q&A Friday and Saturday. I'll be more set up. I should have some equipment back and things like that. And then next Sunday, my topic is, of course, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, his life and legacy. So hopefully you guys really enjoy that. And that'll be Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern. That's when I do my live stream lecture. Living in a free country doesn't mean, yes, James and Charles. James the first, Charles the second, Charles the first, Charles the second, stuff like that. Yeah. Bring back the empire. Living in a free country doesn't mean everything you say and do must be tolerated by a moral and ethical majority. Yes, that's true. And people have struggled with this. Religious minorities have struggled with this, which would answer the questions I was being hurled at me yesterday. That is why the Jews have been persecuted heavily in history, because they do not conform to the pattern of the majority culture, be they the Persians, Greeks, Romans, or even the Christians. I'm trying to get everything situated. Right. Okay, we are. It looks like we're back. Okay. So, anyways, we're finally back, or struggling to get back. Okay. But the truth of the matter is, Carlito, if you're still here, we are not an AI channel. I appreciate you thinking that I know a lot, but it does not compute. I don't use AI because I like to actually share my information and my knowledge organically. And if that means I have bumps and stumbles and things like this, then it means I have bumps and stumbles. And if it means my artwork isn't always beautiful on the videos, then it means that. Check out our short and live form content, long form content. That is totally not AI. Once in a while, an AI image will be used, but that's just me using an image that I think is helpful towards discussing my point as a visual. So I'm sorry about cutting out. I'm sorry about all of that. I really apologize. And Simon, if you're not going to be here tomorrow, then I will change the topic, and we will do, I might do a special for MLK on MLK Day itself. But basically, Simon, I don't want you to miss the English Civil War. What was the other topic? Do you remember? There was another topic we were thinking of discussing, and maybe I can spend an hour on that topic. Simon, if you can remember that topic, let me know, and I'll just do that for our live stream lecture, because I don't want you to miss the English Civil War either, buddy. After the flood, Noah came out of the ark. Noah and his family were given rights. Yes, that was the change in the adjustment. The Noahic covenant, I believe, is what the Jews and Christians call it. Did you answer my question? If so, you were glitching, so I couldn't hear you. C-Dub, I didn't see your question originally. One time on a show, I saw time years with BCE behind it. BCE refers to before the Common Era, and it's supposed to be correct and inclusive of people who are not Christians, because BC, the ancient term, comes from the church, which developed the Gregorian calendar, the modern calendars with Pope Gregory. And because of that, you have the before Christ, and Anno Domini, not after death. AD is the year of our Lord. It's a Latin term, Anno, year, Domini, of the Lord, or of our Lord. So the year of our Lord is AD, basically the birth of Christ onward. While BC is before Christ. BCE is a more politically correct and inclusive terminology, as well as CE, before the Common Era and the Common Era. The reason I don't normally use BCE and Common Era here on the channel, it's not because I don't want to be inclusive, but because they still are based and rotate around the birth of Jesus of Nazareth, so they're really no different than BC or AD. They're just politically correct ways of saying it. So C-Dub, that's what BCE is and everything. What do you think about American the Allies and also Five Eyes intelligence? I don't know a huge amount about that. I know I've talked a lot about World War II on this channel, and the Allies in the U.S. and how they took out the Nazis and stuff. I even did an entire live stream lecture about Japan's perspective and how they looked at Pearl Harbor in World War II. So, can you talk about Operation Able Danger? I don't know enough about it to speak on it, Saber, and that's something that we do here on the channel. If I don't know something, I'm going to say it, so I'm going to look into that. If you saw Jesus, would you kiss him on the lips? What? No. But oh, he is trolling. Yeah, I figured. Okay, now I figured it out. So Bear, you always ask good stuff. That's why I took you for serious there. But yeah, yeah, I garner, I garner. So Bear, you usually ask good stuff. So behave. Anyways, uh, yeah. But anyways, so we have been going for about an hour, and we're going to wrap it up in a minute. Please join us for the live stream lecture. If you like learning about history in a friendly neighborhood way, which is what we do here at this channel, consider liking and subscribing. So subscribing to the Patreon, social media handles, all of that stuff, all up to you. No judgment either way. Do whatever you. I'm just glad to have you here. Hopefully, learning something about history, and if you guys can join us for our live Q and A's, Ask Me Anythings on Fridays and Saturdays, as well as on Sundays for our live stream lecture. And tomorrow, Simon, if you have that topic, yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what the other topic is, so I'm just going to find something. If somebody can give me a topic, I will discuss about it. Do you think if Hitler was a little more patient and waiting to invade Russia in some other situations, he could have taken over a huge amount of it and huge influence, and that way it seemed his invasion seemed reasonable and times, but in retrospect it doesn't work. Mockingbird, please tell me that's not another troll. Talk about Paul and the Romans in the Bible. I don't know if I can do an hour. I could talk about early Christianity if you want, Jocelyn. I'm okay with talking about that on the channel tomorrow. It is Sunday. Some of you are going to church, so thank you, Fidel. I really appreciate you. Civil War. That's true. You know what, Simon? I'm going to do the early Christians and the Taino natives. And I don't have a huge amount on the Taino natives, so I'll talk about them a little bit. Taino, I should say. And I can do both of those and break those up. I have done early Christianity on the channel before, but I don't mind doing the infantile Christianity and the stories of the New Testament, at least from their perspective. So if that works, Simon. Yes, we're doing, this is a traumatic situation. It's been really hard, but we're doing everything we can. And this brings normalcy. This brings me peace. And I think I would go absolutely crazy if I was just thinking about my situation all day long. Being with you guys and doing history really is helpful. I have to have some normal stuff. Yes, I did. CW, I do agree. I do agree with you. Hitler would have. Yeah, let's just do that for our topic. Love you too, Rodolfo. Yeah, that must be nice. What is your goal in history profession, or at least for the next 5 years? Well, I want to get monetized this year, global. I'd like to hit 10,000 subscribers. I'd like to have some sort of platform, and I'd like to make this my full-time gig. But I also, of course, want to get my doctorate. I have a master's in history, and I want to get a doctorate and become a history professor and writer of some renown, hopefully, and supplement that with the channel and with our appeal. I think this is the best way for people to learn history who haven't ever been interested in history, because I'm not a big old dang textbook that's way too heavy and way too technical. So, what time? We are here at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so 1 p.m. on the Pacific, 9 p.m. in Great Britain, 2 p.m. in Mountain Time, and 3 p.m. in Central Time. So join us. I mean, it's 10 a.m. in Hawaii, all of that. So please join us and everything. Let me see here. CIA try to take over the media. Just check on. I say, Bear, I believe you. I will take it on good faith, and I will look into that for you. Yep. Thank you so much. Catholic mission statement. I need to read into that. I love music. I think you're talking about what happened with the Gabrielino Indians and things like that, and I need to know more than that. Otak, great to see you. Always a pleasure. That's true. Collaborating with other channels gives more outreach. I would want to do that. You're in the Caribbean. Interesting. Well, you can always watch them on the live stream, and I have done videos about early Christianity, so please check out the channel, Jocelyn, and you will see a lot to be seen there about early Christianity and its history in my daily history videos. I talk about Christian saints and their history. I did a whole video on the history of Christmas and St. Nicholas, so please watch those if you're interested. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I'm going to sign off now. We've gone over an hour, and it's been a lot more because, but thank you for bearing with me, and I hope you guys got your questions answered in a timely manner, and I didn't have to repeat myself too much. Please join us tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we will talk about the Taino natives who Columbus encountered, as well as the earliest Christians and the formation of the Christian church. So take care, and thank you, everyone. And Simon, you are so professional. And by the way, before you leave, show some love to Simon and Rodolfo, my wonderful moderators who keep the channel going. Great people who we really enjoy having here. You guys are the best. I really appreciate you. You guys are the friendly neighborhood historians, and I will see you all tomorrow. Stay strong until then. Take care and learn something about history. Signing off. Bye-bye.